All right, so when this Hurricane Harvey started flooding neighborhoods, the call went out. If you can help, please do so. Will Bradley answered that call, heading out there and finding dozens of elderly stranded in the floods. He joins us now. First, I'm glad to see that you are well and safe, and I want to thank you for stepping up and doing what everybody needs to do in a situation like this. How are you doing? What have you seen?
Well, thank you. I'm tired. It's been a long 2 days. Felt like we've slept about 3 hours each night. 2 nights ago on Saturday evenings, kind of when the rain started here, I think everybody thought the worst was over. All the hype was for nothing. We prepared, and on Saturday the sun even came out for a little bit. We thought that the hurricane kind of skipped us and the rains missed us, but that was completely wrong. And Saturday night, about 3 a.m. or early Sunday morning, that is, the rain started coming in, and I woke up about 4 in the morning. The rain woke me up, and I went and cleared the drains in my backyard as water was starting to rise. Finally got back in bed about 5:36, and that's when the emails started coming in from our neighborhood that people were trapped in their homes. There was a sense of panic, and I had a kayak, and so I got up out of my bed at 6 and went and tried to help this woman that said water was in her home. She needed help, desperate, and all she had was her address. And my wife emailed her back, asked for her number so I could call her, and made it over to her house. And it was just total devastation. Which you got to realize, in Houston we have Buffalo Bayou, and the majority of all of Houston floods and all the drainage flows right into Buffalo Bayou. Well, the back of our neighborhood is right on this bayou. And what I saw was just heartbreaking. The water was well over my head, probably about 8 feet above the sidewalks that would be in front of people's homes. And so literally I canoed right up to this person's front door. It was the only way I could get to their house. And they were panicked. There was water in their house. They didn't know what to do. They decided to go to a neighbor's house and assess the situation, as did a lot of people. They thought that the waters would recede, just said, well, let's just wait for the waters to go down, and I can get back into my home and assess the damage. Well, it just kept getting worse all day, and as time went on, the water just kept rising, and more of these bands of rain would come through. And there was a sense of panic in our neighborhood. And by the time people started waking up and kind of realizing what was going on in the back of the neighborhood along this bayou, it was really neat to see the neighborhood come together, and people started bringing rafts and kayaks and blow-up air mattresses, whatever they had, just to help get people out. One story that comes to mind is there was a 93-year-old woman. We went and knocked on her door and begged and pleaded for her to come out, and she said no. She said, I'm staying here. And she locked us out. Wouldn't let us in her house, and it took 2 hours of neighbors pleading for her to come out, that it wasn't safe. She lived right on the bayou. She had 2 feet of water in her house, and the waters kept coming up, and 2 hours later we got her out. I also met another couple that I got there just in the nick of time. Right after that, we met with that 93-year-old woman. They were out of their house and flagged me down. They were trying to leave their house. They had waist-deep water in their house. The woman was 87 years old, and the husband flagged me down for help, and she was trying to cross out of her home. And what you don't realize is the currents between these houses was unbelievable. It was enough for me to almost fall down just through the currents, and they were trying to cross this and just get to a neighbor's house that was also flooded, but it was 2 stories high. And I was able to get them upstairs in their neighbor's home, but definitely couldn't put her in a kayak. Would just be too unstable and too unsafe. And so I went back to their home and got all of their belongings, moved them upstairs to the neighbor's home, and then we went and got a John boat. And it took about 4 hours to get a boat that was capable to come and move them out, and among some other people. But it was really a scary situation. And the whole time I was getting this John boat, the water just kept coming and just raining so hard. It was flash flooding along with the bayou rising. I really felt feared for their lives. And we were able to get them out, thankfully, and get them to a hotel, and they're safe and dry. And but there's still people out there that refuse to leave, that thought the waters would recede, and I'm very scared for them. And there's a general sense of panic and fear about what's going to happen with the Buffalo Bayou as Addicks Reservoir released more water last night that should be getting close to this neighborhood in the next hour. And so everybody's kind of on standby to see what happens with that.
Well, Will, there's no question that the fear is going to last as long as the water does. And that's why the angels like you and the helpful people are so important. Are you planning to head back out there and see if you can get people out of their homes?
We had some neighbors come over last night that were fearful of what's going to happen with the reservoir releasing more water into the bayou. And again, that should start coming through our neighborhood about 7 a.m. So we're going to go reassess the situation once it gets light outside and see what the waters do. 3 days after, people are still thinking about evacuating, and we're pretty far into the neighborhood. I thought we'd never even be saying the word evacuate, but that's how fearful people are. I hope that we got everybody out that needed to be out yesterday, at least in our neighborhood. But if people hunker down and the waters keep rising, I'm sure that we'll continue to get calls for people to help.
Well, you're lucky that you got comms right now. We know that in some areas there's no cell service. Obviously, you're able to get a little bit of a shaky, but you're getting a signal out for this interview. So stay safe. Keep us apprised of what's going on so we can try and get the word out about the help that is needed. And I've been with people like you. I've seen the beautiful acts of courage and determination you can make. But just remember, every house that you go into, you have to figure out how you're going to get out of it. It sounds simple to people until they've been in the situation that you've been in. And you know how tricky it can be once you get inside those homes. If the door closes behind you, you got to find a point of egress. Be safe, be careful, and be helpful. Please stay in touch, my friend, and thank you for what you've done for your community.
Thank you.
All right, be safe, Will. Allison.
Oh my gosh, thank goodness for Good Samaritans like Will. What a story.